The Cancer new moon happening on July the 5th is extraordinary. And this is an update video because I want to take you even deeper into the powerful nature of such a blessed moon, conjunct auspicious fixed star Sirius, conjunct Venus, the goddess of good things, love, pleasure, beauty, kindness, fairness, peace, prosperity, love. But also I want to take you to the eclipses of April 8th, 2024, that April eclipse in particular, as it unfolds, that total solar eclipse between now and next March. Why is that important to this moon that's happening for the world that's quite blessed, and you as well in the sign of Cancer? What's so critical here that I didn't have time to address in my video from 2 weeks ago, which focuses on other elements, is that this lunation is happening at the bending of the nodes of fate from the Aries ingress chart of March the 20th. I hear you. What's an Aries ingress? It's when the sun moved into the 0 point of Aries, which is the astrological new year. And it foretells events for us collectively and individually that will proceed in the 12 months that follow, March to March. And this particular moon is exactly square the nodes of fate at the time of the Aries ingress chart. This is a spectacular opportunity for you, for me, and the world to create a pivot point in our reality toward the positive, toward the blessed, and towards the fresh and new. We're going to dive into how this can really support you in the next 6 months, because you see, every new moon isn't just about what happens in the 2 weeks that follow, although it is that as well, but it's what will transpire over the course of the 6 months that follow the new moon in Cancer, in order to fulfill itself as the full moon in Cancer several months later. All right, so let's get diving into this. And if you're new to my channel, and I'm so excited to share this moon with you guys, it's a blessed bright spot. It's like the rainbow, after the storm. It promises miraculous, magical, and beautiful outcomes if we are willing to move in the direction it is asking us to go. Now, couple of notes to file. I see reality as a simulation or a matrix or as a video game. Okay, this is not base reality. Our consciousness is somewhere else. And I have to bring this up just briefly because astrology is code. It's how to break the code, hack the code, see the code of the matrix. So in that sense, look at this as a tool, as a way to sort of play the game or game the system. All right, that's kind of a way of using astrology proactively. Otherwise, it just represents the code that unfolds in each of our lives. I have a client who's a sommelier. Asteroid Bacchus, the god of wine, Dionysius, the Greek god of wine, on her midheaven, her career point. I have a client who channels David Bowie. Asteroid David Bowie on her midheaven, her career point. I have a client who was best buddies with, what's his name? Integral Theory, Ken Wilber, and was the top dude in his organization. Asteroid Wilbur on his midheaven. Please take my amazing asteroids course. It's free. It's in the description box. Because why I bring those extraordinary examples to your attention is to remind you of the unlikelihood of that happening, unless this was a simulation, a matrix, or a video game. Now, if you're new to my channel, my name is Lori Lothian. I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac. Fixed stars and minor asteroids are part of my lovely world of astrology. Please join me here by hitting the like button and subscribing. And of course, as the ancients did, I use the whole sign house system because it allows for the use of Time Lord tools and techniques that become unavailable as soon as we move to Placidus or other house systems. So just trust me on this one. You can still look at your Placidus sky, but every astrologer on YouTube is acting as if we're delineating in the whole sign house system, because that is how we can give you general bell curve astrology. There are exceptions to the rule. Annie Botticelli will start cutting it down into like if your Placidus is here and this is that, but the rest of us aren't doing that because we have to act as if, in general, we're saying, listen for your sun, moon, or rising. I do, because we're pretending the sun is the first house, the moon is the first house, and the rising, of course, is always the first house. And we're giving you whole sign house delineations. Your moon can be your career, your purpose. It can be, your sun can be your career, purpose, and dad. Moon, home, body, your mental state, your mind about your life, what you feel and think about it. And the rising sign is kind of, to me, like the character that you play, where the sun is the eternal nature of you playing it. So, the actor playing the role the role is your ascendant. I think a lot of people find that they're more their sun sign, maybe early in life when you're a child and you haven't adopted the character fully. And also maybe in the end of your life, as you move toward more wisdom and you lean more into the eternal essence of your nature. Think of it that way. All right, we're going to get going enough astrology philosophy for the moment. A couple of thoughts I want to share with you. I had a huge amount of unsubscribes because YouTube, when I called their customer service, told me they were clearing out the bots. Well, unfortunately, according to many of my subscribers, they also got cleared out. I mean, they're not bots. They're people who've been subscribing to my channel for a very long time. You might want to go back and check that you may have been unsubscribed from my channel during the month of June. And if that's the case, would you mind resubscribing? Because it really helps my channel when these subscriptions are increasing. And with 6,000 subscribers in April and 4,000 in May, June, I had 1,900 subscribers because there was a hole in the bottom of my boat. And so as subscribers were coming in, YouTube was dumping them out the bottom. So unfortunately, they do these scrubs quite often and they scrub real people out. So I'm not the only channel talking about this. So please resubscribe if you don't mind. Go check that you're subscribed, etc., that your notification bell is on so you know when I put one of my 20 videos out per month, all of my delineations are all signs. And before we tell you about this incredible moon, we're going to talk about the Decans. I want to tell you one more thing about it. Wise Women Rising is a domain that I own. People keep asking to buy it and I haven't sold it. To me, this moon is going to indicate a rising of feminine power in the world. We already have seen that with the election of a president in I talked about feminine power rising in the world in my Aries Ingress video. I'll put a link to that video below. But women rising to power, like the Mexican female president, like Macron is stepping down, maybe Marine Le Pen will come into play, I don't know. We're going to see an increase of women rising to positions of leadership from the Aries Ingress chart, and the reasons are in that video. Plus, on top of that, in this a new beautiful Cancer moon in her home kingdom. And I'm going to share why that is today. But if you want to know about women rising, and I'll give you a little teaser here because I will be doing a series of videos for the US election. I'll also be addressing a little bit about what's going on in France in a video coming up, and of course, England with elections there. But the idea here is that this is a time in which women such as Tulsi Gabbard and Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer is the governor of the swing state of Michigan. Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat. Then she went independent. Now she's basically saying, if Trump wants me to be his vice president, I'm game for that. Now she was, a soldier in the war in like Afghanistan. She's got like her creds for that kind of vibe, and she was already in Congress, so she could fit the bill. And I do see Tulsi Gabbard and Gretchen Whitmer's charts looking incredibly powerful in this next year. And we will do videos on their charts. And I wouldn't be surprised to see either of those women or both of those women somehow getting into the fray of this election, whether they're as running mates or something else. I was listening to an astrologer and she was talking about, and I can put a link to her video below. I'm going to have her on my channel. I really enjoy her. But she was trying to call the election. She's an astrocartography girl, and she's adorable. I want to definitely have her on my channel. And she basically was saying, at the end of the day, maybe there won't be an election. At the end of the day, maybe it's not Trump or Biden, maybe it's neither. I have suggested that for a while in a lot of videos or in classes I've been teaching. There's just something so wonky in the charts of Biden and in the charts of Trump that look like somehow both of them may be knocked off the game board of this election. And we're seeing that with Biden right now, but Trump, the immunity Supreme Court decision, I'm recording this on July 3rd, just came out. He can have presidential immunity for anything he did as a president. They've pushed the hush money trial to somewhere in after the second debate with Biden, if Biden's still there at the time. They pushed that into, I think, September 8th or 18th. I think it's the 18th. So there's a lot of things going on that look like the golden horseshoes up his, charm offensive of the fates favor Trump. It seems to continually be going on, but that might not be true. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this moon in relationship to both Biden and Trump in what we call world or mundane astrology. I will spend no more than 10 minutes on that because I really want you to get the amazing luster of a gorgeous, blessed, fortunate moon with a conjunction to Venus, trining Saturn and Neptune. And I want you to be, but at the bending of the nodes of fate from the April 8th, 19-degree total solar eclipse. Right? So it's a very fated moon that's going to take that eclipse and it's going to run it further. We're basically this week ahead. And, I'm on July 3rd, going to have the sun square the nodes of fate, which puts us at the critical, pivotal midway point between the April eclipse that happened and the next eclipse season happening this fall. So midpoints, if anything, are turning points, right? We're like at the corner of something, turning the corner. So this is important because this moon is in a turning of a corner, but it's also connected to that bending of the nodes of fate, square the nodes of fate. And I'll show you that in a minute, because the nodes of fate were at 15 degrees of Aries Libra when we had the Aries ingress. And nestled like a Russian doll within the Aries ingress is the summertime time frame that we're in, including, of course, the Cancer ingress chart, which is a solstice chart. But it's more important to say this moon is a part of that energy from the back in June 21st. This is the first lunation after the solstice ingress of the summer, sun moving into Cancer. And at 14 degrees, it's going to be within a degree of the bending of the nodes of fate, or from the Aries Libra nodes of fate energy of March the 20th when the Aries ingress happened. So it's going to activate the eclipse of April 8th. It's going to activate that in your life, my life. And it's going to say like, okay, guys, with luck, beauty, charm, goodness, and grace, how can we make a critical pivot turning point regarding what the eclipse of April is asking us each to do individually and collectively? In our Aries and Libra sky relative to our Cancer sky in our natal charts. And so therefore, this becomes a decisive window of time, not only the next 2 weeks, which will be important for you, for me, and the world, but of course, over the next 6 months. Here we have ingredients for a pivotal turning point energy. Okay, let's get going. Last thing I want to say, I promise, and we're going to show you the sky and start. Hang in there. This is very important. I am not pro-Biden or pro-Trump. In fact, I don't like either of them. I'm also a Canadian. I don't vote in the United States. I also have never voted in my entire life in any election, municipal, provincial, statewide, whatever. I can't vote in the United States anyway, but you get the point. I am truly one of the most apolitical beings you're ever going to see. That said, I'm reading the astrology of elections, like what I would read the astrology of weather events, like I would read the astrology of cultural events. I did a whole video on the whole Russell Brand debacle. I had to take it down because YouTube was being punitive around it at the time. But bottom line, I was doing well, but bottom line is I do astrology of the world events. And if you are a Democrat or Republican and you want to pull me out and say, oh my God, you're pro-Trump or you're pro-Biden, I'm actually not. This is your bias showing through. I put out a short recently called Why Biden Steps Down. And that short is taken off a video I did. It's connected to another video. My assistant put that other video in there. I think that was a pull from maybe the moon video I did, the Cancer new moon video. And the comments underneath are just fascinating because people will say, I'm tired of your pro-Trump stance. The heck? I'm just reading the astrology. Okay, end of my lecture. Please take a chill pill. All right. I am not in your politics in the United States. I'm not there. All right. If I had to say what I would be, if I was in the United States, I'd be a libertarian probably. Okay. So let's get rolling. In Canada, I would be a centrist, but actually I don't vote many of the times anyway. I just find politics to be just like a football game or a soccer match or whatever. It's one team versus the other. And honestly, at this point, neither is great. I'm going to read a quote to you right now before we go ahead and open the chart up, and then we're going to do your sign. I'm just going to pretty well quickly go to your sign. When I talk about why this time frame of this particular lunation could indicate a favoritism for women rising, I'll show you the chart for that. And where I see challenges for Biden and challenges for Trump, I'll show you that very briefly, and we'll get into your sign. I'm putting this video out, by the way, on July 4th. That's probably a bit of a risk given that people are busy partying, but I'm going to do my best to share this content on a timely manner. So go back and watch my original video because I do another deep dive into some of the asteroids, and Salacia is in there, as well as the asteroid for homecoming to your true home. And that might be giving you more detail on a different angle than I will be covering today. But there's an astrologer named Jessica Murray. And she's it's Sky Mother Astrology. And she was in an interview with a fellow I like, Frederick Woodruff. And if you want to check out Frederick Woodruff Substack, he's a brilliant writer. I guess I can remember to put the link in the video below. I subscribe to him because he's a great writer. And hopefully I'll have an opportunity perhaps to bring him onto my channel at some time. And she was having an interview with him, and she had this quote that he pulled out from the interview. And I find it a fascinatingly, interestingly evocative quote. But remember, I'm not endorsing the quote. I just think it's kind of got a point. So we're in the aftermath of the presidential debate in which the consensus is that Joe Biden fared poorly. Okay. It's up to you to make that decision. And also, as I record this on Wednesday, July the 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, we're having an intense sky going on, just so you know. But it's a positive, mostly positive sky. But what I would say about this is that this is a time in which people's Neptunian illusions are being unwound, because we just had the station retrograde on July 2nd of Neptune, which is like when the tide pulls back. Please watch my Neptune retrograde video because I did one for your sign. Over the next few months, the tide is pulling back of the Neptune delusion, and we're seeing what's underneath the surface. And that as that tide is pulling back, and I'm recording today on July 3rd, the latest breaking news is several Democrats are getting together and saying Biden must step down. I think 25 Democrats are now making a case for that. And there's stories coming out all over the place like that, Obama really wants Biden to take a step away from this election. And there's a lot of this kind of, and that a new story came out. I don't know who brought that one out. Axios, maybe, that Biden insiders have been seeing, but trying to deal with his decline for a long time. And then another story came out yesterday or today that Biden is hard to deal with in his briefings, and the White House staff has to tiptoe around it because he gets irritable and angry. And, I'll say one last thing, because I'm not pro-Biden or pro-Trump. Please know that. There's this other thing that came out yesterday or the day before about how the White House staff knows they must schedule Biden between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. when he's alert and he's on his game, etc. But that after that, especially after that, things go downhill and the other Biden comes out. But in mental health fields, that's called sundowning, okay? That's when you're dealing with the onset of cognitive decline, for some reason. It doesn't have to be Alzheimer's. Any kind of cognitive decline that looks like, the onset of senility, as the old phrase would be, you'll find that that person doesn't function as well when the sun is going down, when the late evening approaches. Okay, I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying that's possible. So please do not yell at me in the comments, okay? I'm just giving you what's going on in the collective news field on July 2nd, 3rd, okay, as I make this video, okay? Because the sky suggests, as Neptune pulls back, the fog of illusion, delusion is going to reveal things that were hidden from view. Now, lastly, the quote from Jessica Murray, Sky Mother, I think, Astrology, as it was brought to my attention in the Substack article by Frederick Woodruff, is this: the trouble is, as a dusty old remnant of straight party ticket days, Biden's from an era that's over. 2024 is not about ordinary politics. It's about apocalyptic politics. Take that quote as you like. There was a bit of a laugh when Biden said that Trump had the morals of an alley cat. We're back in the Great Depression or 1940s or something, where things were swell, right? When things were swell. What is another good 1940s, 50s expression, guys? Put them in the comments below. Okay, I'd love to hear it. There's all these old-timey phrases, right? And, I almost think of a Gumshoe detective novel right now, but, old-timey, right? And Biden and Trump are not of this era. They're both super old-timey. We need minds that are alert. We need energy that is fresh and new. And fresh and new is what a new moon is. This is a new moon on the fixed star Sirius, on the sun of the United States of America. What is the sun of the United States of America? the leadership. What is a new moon? A new beginning, okay? So we will see new beginnings in leadership from the new moon on the sun of the United States of America. It's a rare event that you're going to have a Cancer new moon on the sun of the United States at the bending of the nodes of fate. Really, it's at the bending of the nodes of fate right now, but it's also at the bending of the nodes of fate from the Aries Ingress chart as well, and more specifically. Okay, let's show you the sky. Let's talk about you. Okay, and we're going to get into your sign. I don't know that I want to cover much more about the politics. I think we're moving into you, but I will tell you this. This is the Aries Ingress chart. Plain and simple. This is what it looked like on March the 19th at 11:25 p.m. in Washington, D.C. as the sun moved into 0 degrees of the sign of Aries. On the outside, you can see the actual July 5th lunation at 14 degrees of Cancer. The moon is approaching. I didn't get it exact. That's okay. Just know that the moon and sun will be co-joined here at 14 degrees. I bet it would help if I was actually sharing this. I have a feeling you guys cannot see what the hell I am talking about. The share didn't work and I have no idea why. Let's try again. Now can you see what I'm talking about? Okay. And if I was to annotate, I'll show you what I'm talking about. There's going to be a new moon at 14 degrees conjunct Venus, and the moon will move into that exactly. The nodes of fate right here on the Aries ingress, right? Boom, are right like that. And this is what we call a beautiful square to the bending of the nodes of fate, which brings tension, actually in a broad square to the asteroid America. So that's called a grand cross. Now, honestly, it just means that this is a particularly fated moon that has to do with larger cycles of eclipses. What I brought up in my Aries ingress chart and other videos as well is a simple point that the last time we had eclipses moving through the sign of Aries and Libra, in which Chiron was also involved in the eclipses, was in 1968-69, the eclipse of March the 25th, 1968, where that involved the Chironic element, led right afterwards to Lyndon Baines Johnson, the incumbent president, who was in the race for the fall election of 1968, taking himself off the ticket and stepping away. He announced it 5 or 6 days after that eclipse. Why did he do that? One of the reasons is polling in the Democratic primary, his results were not so great. And that was because there was a lot of dissension about his role in the sign of Aries war. What war was happening in 1968? Anyone know? The Vietnam War. Nixon ran on a ticket to cause an end to the war to happen, and he won the election. The guy that took Lyndon Baines Johnson's place, I think, might have been Humphreys, but the point is, it was an incumbent president stepping down because unpopular appeal because of his managing of a war that was unpopular with the people, most of the people. Students were uprising. Does that sound familiar? Students rising up, campus protests, etc. We're back in the same rinse, repeat matrix code of time, which is what astrology is. Now, one thing to say about that rinse, repeat cycle is that, thank you to my commentator, 2 people mentioned that Lyndon Baines Johnson had a heart condition and was in poor health and thought that he may not be able to sustain himself through a contentious election and a second term. So that does also dovetail with what's happening with Biden. Joe Biden is considered to be in frail, poor health and or mental, physical health after the debate that happened. I will be doing videos about Biden and Trump and all of the other opportunities, even RFK, in a series of videos that will be coming out during the month of July into August. I almost don't want to waste my time. I want to see where the chips land, because I don't think it will be Biden on the ticket. And for some sneaky suspicion, I'm not sure Trump will last either, and I'm not sure why yet. I need to go into that into more depth. He has a huge amount of intensity with a square by the Mars-Uranus conjunction in mid-July to his natal Mars ascendant, which can look like accidents or injuries or more nefarious outcomes to do with career and bodily wellness. Okay, that's a clue for you there. Lastly, when Saturn stationed retrograde, and I didn't even think about this. Thank you to Louise Eddington, a friend and colleague. We'll be doing a Venus rising video shortly. I was reading her newsletter today, and she did mention that when Saturn stationed to go retrograde, it was in a difficult storyline when it comes to incumbent President Biden and also to Trump. And basically, the station retrograde at 19 degrees of Pisces, which just happened last week, was stationing retrograde in Joe Biden's chart in the place where his IC or the root of his chart exists, which means it reverbs as a difficult stationary Saturn to the midheaven or the career point of Joe Biden, as well as when Neptune stationed retrograde, there was a trine to Joe Biden's Venus and Sun conjunction in his 12th house. But I remind you that the 12th house is a house of challenges, including mental health issues. Now, also, Donald Trump, there is the difficulty from stationary retrograde Saturn to his nodes of fate in his natal chart. Therefore, we see that both of these people, Biden and Trump, are receiving a difficult restriction by Saturn in different ways, but impacting both of those people. Now, let's get to your sign. As we get ready to do your sign, don't forget to hit the like button, to hit the subscribe button, and to hit the notifications button so you don't miss a thing I put out. And we're going to start with Aries and how this is going to be a moon conjunct Venus on the beautiful blessed fixed star Sirius that's going to ripple through what the eclipse of April, the 8th total solar eclipse, is asking of you most acutely from April of this year to the spring/April of next year, a year-long influence. Shall we begin? I think we shall. Okay, so I kind of didn't tell you the total truth. I want to just mention one more thing, Tulsi Gabbard, and then we'll move on. We don't have a birth time for Tulsi, but we know a few things about her, and I think it's worth noting. Gretchen's got a great chart too, very 0 Aries, 0 Libra, 0 cardinal signs, and we'll be doing a video on Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, the swing state. Okay, so she's being pulled into maybe a candidacy for a running mate for Biden, but at this rate, who knows, maybe even a replacement, who knows, right? On the Democratic National Convention that's happening in August, if it's called an open convention, they will be maybe perhaps choosing somebody from a lineup of contenders if Biden does indeed face the opportunity to step down from the pressure that seems to be building around him. So again, I'm not political. If I have to say it one more time, I'm just going to throw up. All right, so here we have it. Just say Tulsi Gabbard, we don't know what her rising sign is, but we do know that she has all these planets in Aries. This is a stellium of asteroid America, Mercury, Mars, Sun, and the planet Venus. United States natal chart simply is in fact a Sag rising, putting all of her stellium in the United States 5th house, which is about entertainment, celebrity. I think she'd make a great newscaster myself. Just saying. But it doesn't have to be that literal. In this sense, we would remind ourselves that if she was going to go back into politics, it would be as probably she's an independent, but she's going to get pulled back now. She get pulled back by Trump and his cohorts. And she couldn't maybe just run still as an independent, depending what happens with Trump. Anyway, the point I want to make is simple. This particular lunation happening at 14 degrees of Cancer will indeed activate her entire stellium of planets. Also note that she ostensibly has a moon in Leo. We don't know what time she was really born. This is set for 11:59 a.m., which is what you kind of do, right? I think it has to be Leo. I think if I went back 12 hours, the moon is still in Leo. I believe it is. So she's a Leo moon on with Donald Trump's ascendant. So they're going to get along. Second of all, they're going to like each other. He'll feel like he'll perceive her as somehow very nurturant or very emotionally safe to be around. And then we add the fact that her Aries stellium is all flowing to his ascendant at 29 degrees and his Mars. And they have a Mars trine Mars. And that's like comrades in arms. We can build it together. We've got this together. So there's a natural affinity in their charts, and their synastry is quite amazing together, actually. And in this regard, these two could be very dynamic duo, not knowing if Trump is going to continue. Again, I'm not pro him or Biden. And for those of you who keep asking me about RFK, I've listened to 2 interviews he's done, especially the longer one with Dr. Phil, who I think is weird. But I do like him. He's an intelligent man with a raspy voice, right? I don't like him any better on his take on the situation in the Middle East than I do Trump or Biden, right? But he does have an intelligent way of discoursing, and he's definitely mentally alert. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But this stellium for Tulsi Gabbard, this is a powerful time for her. That Aries ingress chart and that eclipse of April the 8th activates her sun, her purpose, her career, her Venus, her popularity, her Mars, her warrior champion hero archetype, and her soldier, that she was a soldier. And it activates some pivotal energies because these eclipses are opening up North Node expansion of her solar energy in her life, connected to America. So she's doing well. And this moon at 14 degrees awakens that stellium, especially that Mars Sun. It's still a nice tight degree to count, right? 14 to 22 is an actual square. But because it's a Venus energetic, right? Venus is on the moon, and the fixed star dog star Sirius on the sun of the United States, it implies that she is pivotally involved in a refreshing of leadership in the United States. It does not necessarily mean it's her. I don't know what it means yet. We'll be looking at this in a lot more detail. So now that we said that, and I told you why the wise women are rising, let's talk about one more element of the sky for this particular, my poor time stamping sister, for this particular lunation that's going to be occurring in Cancer. It's in the second decan, decan of the sign of Cancer in the Egyptian term of Mercury. Mercury is good for this being very much about a lot of news stories emerging. But the decan that this is about is the tarot card that has to do with the three women with the cups, the Three of Cups. As soon as I realized the Three of Cups was involved, I thought about women celebrating, the three women cheering, they're putting their cups up. This does tell me that something about this new moon and the 6 months that follow, which of course puts us into the fall election, has to do with women and celebration. Again, wise women rising, powerful women rising to power feels true for me. Feels true for me about the decan itself. The myth of Osiris and his wife is involved in the Egyptian lore around the star Sirius. And so there is that element of the husband and wife dynamic duo, which is the same as saying Juno and Hera, or Juno, Hera, and Jupiter, Zeus. It is about a powerful couple that lead. So again, my prediction is we are going to see from this new moon a woman in power, whether she is the vice president or the next president. I'm not sure yet. I'll be diving more into that in future videos. Let's go ahead and do every single sign. We will start with Aries. So let me just cue the Aries folks up for the July 5th beginning, and let's get started. Aries sun, moon, and rising sign. I have a sun and moon here, so I can relate. I'm a blogger. I tell my stories and those of friends and family and clients to use it as examples illustrating the stories do work, not because I'm a narcissist. So, by the way, it's debatable. Maybe I am, So with this energy in the first house, with this energy for you, the Aries energy, you are being expanded. You are having a larger sense of selfhood, a new identity, independence. You are striving with the North Node here and the eclipses here to find a new you that's no longer wounded because you've been feeling like an identity wound, a selfhood wound, an independence wound since 2019 when Chiron entered into Aries, and he'll leave, I think, in 2027. The eclipses are opening up the gateways to turning this woundology around. And because you're dealing with that existential selfhood wound, who am I? What am I? Where do I want to be? What do I want to present as in my character of being an Aries person in this world? You're looking at this lunation down here at 14 degrees at the bending of the eclipse of April the 8th, telling you this is your pivot point. Now, because it's an acute moment, I'm really going to give you that 2-week window after this moon most acutely, but understand it unfolds over 6 months. Because don't forget, everything about the eclipse of April the 8th doesn't expire till the next eclipse, which is March the 29th in Aries next year. But look at the next 2 weeks and ask yourself the following questions. What are the foundational elements of my life that I need to look at from my early childhood imprints and programmings, from my ancestral stories, from my experience of the child in me here, and my mother relationship? The moon is in the sign of the mother, in the house of the mother. And my mother relationship above me and below me, if you are a mother, that dynamic of mother-daughter, mother-son, the dynamic of the mother, and your own childhood experiences of being mothered and having a mother. Got all of that? That is what is turning a pivotal corner spiritually and psychologically for you. Because what I would say is excavate this story. Allow yourself to deepen into what the heck was going on as you were a child, because there's some golden treasures there. You know, a new moon is a new beginning, but it's dark. It's about the hidden and the dark. And you know, the fourth house is the midnight part of the sky, the darkest dark of the sky, right? So what has been hidden in the dark, in the underground, in the fourth house, the darkest place, that it wants to be revealed to you. And because Venus is co-present here and even conjunct this actual lunation, it has a nectar of Venus all over it. Love, beauty, peace, friendship, kindness, prosperity, and romance, and what we desire. And let's take it that deep. Venus is the element of what it is we wish to experience in our lives, what we desire. The fundamental desire of humanity is happiness. I want it, you want it, who doesn't want it? Yet we get caught up in pleasures, right? Venus is like the fancy sofa, the Ferrari, the bottle of Dom Perignon. And while they do provide temporary pleasure, they don't provide ultimate, unconditional, causeless happiness or joy. They just don't. So when you're looking at your desire as an Aries, sun, moon, or rising for what it is you truly want to have in your life, because that's what this is inviting you to do, look deeper than the surface pleasures. What is the nature of true happiness in your life? And I don't want to be one of those psychological astrologers, but this is a deeply psychological house because it's a moksha liberation house. And in India, they'd say to liberate yourself spiritually in a fourth house manner is to liberate yourself from the family of origin, culture, and tribal narratives that have informed your character and identity. Because they're not true. They're just like when the screenplay writer decides to give a character features to embed a historical narrative of a type of family the character grew up with, and to therefore give the character a bunch of stories. But this isn't your time to leave the stories behind and start fresh. New moon, new beginning. On a practical note, your home, new beginnings in your home that are auspicious and portended and destined from the Aries Ingress chart and the eclipse of April the 8th. What is this new home? What is the nature of the new home that you wish to have? It doesn't have to be literal, although it certainly can be. The North Node is in an applying square to the fourth house, especially if your IC lives here in a floating whole sign house system. You may be looking at a destined new home, and one that brings you joy and pleasure, nurturance, cozy, and comfort, right? Cancer, and perhaps even your water. But if it's not that literal over the next 2 weeks or 6 months, which it definitely can be literal, how do you want to make a home, a temple, sanctuary, nest of coziness and friendship and beauty and love? Because you probably desire that with Venus in this space. The other thing I want to note is that the eclipse itself of April the 19th was conjunct Chiron. There is an element of that wounded identity that you've been dealing with. If it's your Cancer moon, a wounded home identity or body identity, Cancer sun, a wounded career and purpose identity, Cancer rising, everything about your life seems a little bit off kilter since 2019. And I can really relate, by the way. So, one last bit of wisdom for you in this narrative, if I may. Well, this is all about Venus in this lunation. There is an attempt by the moon to bring in some support from Saturn. Saturn is about that sagacity and wisdom, and Saturn is in a trine to the lunation from that house of your spiritual awakening and liberation from the matrix, the deepest part, the samadhi, the nirvana, the total monty, or the full house of awakening. So for some of you, there's not just an ancestral decoupling and a familial childhood storyline letting go, but perhaps even a deeper spiritual level of awakening. Saturn here is retrograde, and he's still at the 19th degree, which is a stationary degree. And so he's very profoundly powerful because he's very close to Earth and he's moving very slow. So he's got high potency, and a high potency Saturn can be in a trine to Venus about more deeply looking at financial, money, and prosperity narratives, sexual and romantic and love narratives, Venus, from a Saturnian view. Perseverance, discipline, wisdom, and boundaries. Okay. The trine is flowing and it brings opportunity in its own right. And there may be an opportunity for a sagacity around home to do with foreign shores, foreigners, or foreign land people, where Saturn is sitting in that 12th house. Also, a real beautiful decoupling of ancestral patterns around addictions and self-undoing, and your ability to move toward a stabilization of remedies in that regard for your own self. And lastly, I wonder if Saturn in your 12th house doesn't just also stabilize revenue generated from foreign shores and foreign lands by beautiful, enjoyable things you are doing in and from your home. All right. Let's get going. Oh, by the way, if you're a single Aries with the South Node transiting through your 7th house, good old soulmate type relationships are trying to be engaged here. And because this lunation squares the nodes of fate, not only during the actual moon, but from the Aries Ingress chart and the eclipses, there are deep, soulful spiritual engagements with potential new love mates. And in existing relationships, it's letting go of your need to be so focused on that other person. It's time to look at what you need, what you want. If anything, it could be a call for a deep, profound level of interdependence in love relationships, as opposed to codependence or hyper independence, to balance the self, I, thou, self and other axis. And maybe let go also of your clients, audience, and marketplace fixations because you need to deepen into something else or in your own identity in order to reach back out to the 7th house, which is your audience, marketplace, and client space, for 10th house from your Capricorn 10th house. Moving into the sign of Taurus. All right, so Taurus, you're a fixed sign and you don't like a lot of change. And I get that, you're all stable and steady as she goes, and I'm happy with that. But we want to talk about the fact that we have this eclipse sitting in this new moon sitting in your 3rd house, which is a cardinal sign, and cardinal signs are about initiative and change. So taking action. That's why I love it for leaders, women leaders, right? Because cardinal signs are all about leadership. I swear, guys, mark my words, we're going to see women rising to US power in this next election in some profound way. In your own life, not running for election, are you? You're having this new beginning, new moon, activating a pivot point from the eclipses that were happening, or the eclipse of April the 8th. So because this new moon hits the bending of the nodes of fate from the April eclipse, here's the story. You need to make some pivotal turning point decisions regarding the 3rd house matters relative to changes that are underway in axis of 6-12. So we want to see changes in your health routines and in your work routines and in your self-undoing, self-addictions and sabotage stories, in your ways you've been isolating yourself or feeling alone and feeling like you're in your own little cave or dungeon, and that wound has been there for a while, Taurus, ever since 2019. Also shifts in your work routines and health routines. So work especially, and you want to let go of the old patterns of work, especially the South Node there. And it's ruled by Venus, who's saying, what do you truly desire? What do you truly want? Regarding work and health, regarding alone and loneliness or self-undoing and addictions and bad patterns and habits, all these 12th house stories. Because it's a 3rd house story, that's where this is happening. Some of the shift in the next 2 weeks and 6 months that is pivotal to your destiny, and that's through till end of March next year, right, from the eclipse energy, It may have to do with what you wish to choose in your local environment. Because it may seem small, the neighbors, the neighborhood, the shops, the restaurants, and the places you go, it may seem incidental, but we live our life only in the local neighborhood. It's like the power of now, we only have the now, but we only have the neighborhood. You may dream of moving to another country. You may have a giant city that you live in, but you actually only operate in a small chunk of that, right? That store, that coffee shop, that library, your zone of everyday activity. And that wants to be, what do you desire in that everyday activity zone that's going to bring you happiness and bring you joy and certainly pleasure? And that can also involve the elements of your kinship tribe. Your aunts, uncles, and nieces and nephews are there, but also your siblings. And also the relationship you have to friends from your childhood are being investigated, invited to be refreshed in a new way. The third house can indicate skills-based learning, and you may be propelled from this new moon in the 2 weeks that follow and or the next 6 months to invite yourself to learn something that you enjoy, a skill. Do you want to learn to knit? Do you want to learn to be an auto body mechanic? Do you want to learn to weld? Do you want to learn to be an artist of pastel watercolors? There may be a call for that skills-based learning for you to investigate it, for you to desire to learn more, to find something new there. Ultimately, also, there is the joy of short distance travel. Do you desire that? Do you want to journey to and fro more as a Taurus? Maybe you've been landlocked and feeling like you can't get anywhere. Now it's time to take some adventures in the next 2 weeks. But why would you do that? Because it's going to give you a new balance in health and work matters. It's going to give you a shifting of the gears around self-undoing and addictions. Now, learning can be involving those themes, professional learning to unhook from bad habits and addictions as well. And lastly, the third house can indicate your social media, online networks, website, and those kinds of stories. And what do you desire to create or achieve or begin a new, fresh start in that part of your life? I have a Taurus son daughter, and I can see this being her finally putting a picture on her Facebook account. But she's so anti-social media, which I know is rare. But also, if you are somebody whose IC floats in the bottom of that third house, like somewhere in the third house, in the whole sign house system, your IC, the root can be in houses 1 to 7, depends on your latitude of birth. Then you might also be looking at refreshing the screen on a new home. Some of you may do that because you may look at this as a new beginning. Cancer is home and nest, and you may be looking at a new home over the course of the next 2 weeks or 6 months, and with the flow to the South Node in the house of rentals and rental properties, a letting go of one rental property, one tenancy landlord arrangement for something new is a possibility. And it wouldn't be too shabby for a little bit more travel with committed love romantic partners, as well as we see that flow to Juno in the house of romantic love. Or single Tauruses can meet their romantic partner through travel. You travel to see them, they travel to see you. Take your pick. That could look like a committed love story, engaged through travel or learning environments in the next 6 months. But remember, you're turning a critical turning point to do with breaking the bonds of this eclipse cycle through the beauty of a Venus new moon, in Venus-infused new moon in the sign of Cancer on glorious fixed star, dog star Sirius. Go watch my first video because I talk more about the meaning of the dog star Sirius. In that video, it'll be in the description box, so you can go watch the original video put out about a couple of weeks before this one. Hey, Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign, what's up? If you are a Gemini and this moon is refreshing you, it's refreshing a new beginning in the money earnings houses. I'm a progressed sun in Gemini. I bring that up as an example. I want to find a new way to create income that doesn't exhaust me as much. So I have tapered back my client readings. I'm just using me as an example. What are you doing, Geminis? What are you doing? Sun is your career. Moon is your home body nest. A rising sign is everything about you. How do you actually know that you already want a fresh start in the savings, earnings, money, and financial sector of your reality with a blessing from Venus and the fixed star Sirius, but understanding the backdrop. And what is that backdrop? It's that this is about that eclipse of April the 8th and the 6 months that follow this new moon are embedded like a Russian doll in the April 8th eclipse, which does not fully complete itself until the next Aries eclipse next spring on March the 29th. So you know that this story is a bigger picture, and you want to make a critical turning point decision, or you're just lucky starting new beginnings in your financial corridor through the energetic axis of these eclipses through houses 11 and 5. Well, let's talk about it. This could be turning points in your earnings because of expansion of your influence in larger group settings and in larger groups of belonging. And in that sense, you may find that you are expanding into a new social circle of some kind over the next 2 weeks and 6 months, because the eclipses want you to do that. And the moon is very much with Venus about the sociability factor. And that sociability and pleasure of sociability factor is also opening you up to new income, finances, and resource opportunities. I would also note that you have a chironic wound in that 11th house, and you can maybe not be able to find your right tribe, your group, your social networks are not just quite yours. You don't feel like you belong really. You want to, but you're not quite there. And that's going to be a part of the healing over the next 6 months as well. The 11th house is your visions, goals, and dreams for your gains in your career. Like, you want to take the career gains where you have masterful Saturn at the top of the sky telling you you're the expert authority, the master of your trade, but also making you tired and world weary, if anything. And you notice that you get the gains of this 10th from the 2nd. So there's a bit of a woundology here since 2019. You may be getting a lot of gains, but it still feels like not quite on purpose, for example. Chiron, the key to purpose. And you're going to shift that in the next 6 months. I could even say there's a deeper alignment with the meaningful way that your dreams are unfolding, your visions and goals for your life in alliance with earnings from your career that bring enjoyment, right? Venus just wants you to enjoy things. And she is trining in this moon Saturn. Stability, perseverance, discipline, and forbearance, and wisdom in your career space, flowing to prosperity and earnings and enjoyment in your 2nd house. I mean, with Venus in a broad sextile to Mars, I love it. Let go of those addictions, self-undoing bad habits and patterns, and increase your revenue by enjoying what you do. Increase the revenue from foreign lands and foreign shores, for example. Finally, I would note this, because the South Node is in the 5th house, it has been asking you not to lose your enjoyment in life, because 5th house is play, fun, creativity, procreativity, romance, and enjoyment, and love and sex. When that eclipse was kicking off in that axis this April. But to go deeper, because you're letting go, letting God, archetypal, deep spiritual knowledge and wisdom and soul energy, like going deep into the sort of surrendered space of the South Node, is you don't surrender the fun, play, joy, and pleasure. You go deeper. You find what is really pleasurable at a deeper layer than just temporary, transient flashes of happiness. In the mystical tradition of Kabbalah, there is this thing about light sparking brightly and giving us a flare of happiness, but it's temporary and transient. And that's the matrix, right? That's Neo that's Cypher going in for the glass of wine and the cigar, because he wants the illusion and the pleasure over the real. But the South Node is deeper than that. So a lot of you are really looking at, on a practical note, you could have a soulful soulmate sex affair for sure. But you could also be going a lot deeper with that South Node. And this Venus energy says the deeper you go into almost like channeling your muse, getting your creative forces fired up, finding that inner resource from your spiritual depths around procreativity, creativity, muse, romance, inspiration, fertility, and children, going deeply, coming from a resource much deeper, you are going to find that you are prospering, live long and prosper in your resources in your life. Lastly, the new moon is beginning to refresh your face and your jaw and your teeth and your throat And therefore, there's a potential for some considerable facial rejuvenation, some rebeautification, a sense of maybe even having a better voice or anything to do with throat, teeth, face, the second house being Venus blessed over the next 6 months, and allowing you, by the way, to maybe express yourself in a more Venusian way, right? More enchanting, more charming, more nurturing Cancer. All right. All right, Cancer. This is clearly about you, right? You get a moon here every year, but not conjunct the dog star Sirius, conjunct Venus. That's what's so special. If you're a Cancer rising, of course, it's hitting you everywhere because this blesses you at the steering wheel of your life that then radiates out to your marriage, your career, your home, to everything in your life, your children. You are getting the blessing very directly as a character in the Matrix. However, if it's your sun, it's blessing your career and purpose matters, or maybe your dad or father figures, and a moon, your home, your nest, your body, your mind. And so this energy is a really beautiful invitation for every single Cancer in this universe to say yes. Just say yes. What desires do you have for something that brings pleasure, joy, or happiness into your realm of life? What is it you want? Reminds me of that Lucifer NBC show that I think Amazon picked up. And Lucifer, it's a really funny show. It's really good. It's sort of the devil teams up with the detective to solve murder mysteries. But anyway, he always says, "What is it you truly desire?" And he mesmerizes people with his eyeballs. And what is it you truly desire, Cancers? Because, you guys are amazing beings. There's a lot of misunderstanding about all the water signs, that they're all super sensitive. If you guys ever known a Scorpio, especially rising, but Scorpios, Pisces, and Cancers, they're extremely private. They're very protective of themselves. They can read the room, but you can hardly ever read them. And they're fiercely protective. The Scorpios have a stinger. The crabs have claws, right? The Pisces have, sharp whipping tails. For the most part, you're going to find them also somewhat detached. They're not always super, super lovey-dovey. They're really not. It's a misunderstanding of the sign, in my humble opinion. Okay, having lived with them, a lot of you guys. And the other energy here is your whole world is as a Cancer sign, usually is about fiercely protecting those you love, right? And also protecting yourself. And because of that, Venus is saying, well, what are you doing that brings you a sense of enjoyment, but also is self-protective, self-loving, and self-nurturing? And you're going to investigate that over the next 6 months. Technically, we want to remind you that this is at the bending of the nodes of fate from the eclipse of April the 8th, indicating through till end of next March. This is a little nested Russian doll 6 months ahead, where you're being asked to really focus on your career matters, where the North Node eclipse happened conjunct Chiron in April. And the question you have to ask is, am I enjoying this? Because you're expanding and you're moving toward greater purpose and using your Chironic fingerprint, unique original medicine for this world. In your career expression, you're trying to be purposefully on career path and get over a career wound that you might have felt since 2019. And I know that's true for some Cancers, I know. But you may be not unsuccessful, but are you enjoying it? Do you find emotional satisfaction? Is it self-nurturing to do the thing you do? Because if it's not, in the next 2 weeks and 6 months, you'll be noting that you need to make some changes. And the changes will bring you a greater sense of wellness, well-being, joy, and joyfulness in yourself. You want to let go, perhaps, from these eclipses, especially the one in April 2. It activates the nodal axis of something to do with your ancestral line, family of origin, childhood narratives. And for some of you, over the next 6 months, there might be literally letting go of a home, choosing to move or sell a home or find a new home or change your home or let go of things in the home or people in the home as well. South Node will, like a leaky bucket, take things out of the home, your domicile. Maybe a kid will move out of the home. Maybe your spouse will leave you. Maybe you'll find a new home. Maybe you'll leave for a new home. It's all the home stories, right? And a lot of Cancers are focused on the idea of what they need to let go of, not only from their childhood, but also in their homes, What do you want to do? It very much reminds me of Marie Kondo. Does it bring you joy in your career and in your home? And what do you need to let go of that doesn't do that? Because of the trine to Saturn, the energy says there's a lot of sagacity in the house of God, spiritual wisdom, truth, and knowledge flowing to that Venus. And it can indicate on a practical note that some of you may be educating yourself with a guide, mentor, coach, or teacher, or just some kind of formal education over the next 6 months, so that you can indeed move into a direction in work and career that is satisfying emotionally. That's basically that simple. Saturn in the ninth house is also very much about your willingness to move into spiritual paths that are more traditional. So while you might have been spiritual but not religious, it's a possibility that some of you, Cancer rising especially, will move into a new direction. Maybe take up the study of some new spiritual path, Sufism, Islam, learning more about it, wanting to understand the world through the lens of some spiritual tradition. I feel that you also, because of the sextile, loosey-goosey sextile forming between Mars and Venus on this new moon, you could also find yourself engaging in the possibility of some changes in your friendship circles that are rather dramatic. Really, maybe exhilarating and exciting, but some changes with Uranus, Mars up there, but you're happy with those changes. You may have some blessings in your life from an elder sibling that are surprising you and also increase your sense of financial wellness in the next 2 weeks after this moon. That's probably more acute. But seriously, at the end of the day, this is an important angular moon because not only does it activate the angular once every 18-year renovation of career and home matters, but it also activates your 7th house and your 1st house axis. And so at the end of the day, you may also be making some changes in your significant long-term committed love stories, or in how you reach out to your audience, marketplace, and client base. Those are shifts that are in play in the 2 weeks and the 6 months after this moon. And that's all I've got for you. Now, Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. What happens when you have a new moon that refreshes the screen every year in your 12th house, but this one with blessed Venus and Sirius, the very fortunate dog star, is that you reset something to do with your spiritual beliefs or path in life. Is moksha. You may have some powerful dream initiations. You may be able to download some Akashic Records insights. You may also be resetting things to do with how you enjoy your alone time, your pleasures, even your bed pleasures, and having a shift in that idea that pleasure, joy, and happiness can indeed occur when you are alone. And there's nothing wrong with that. I always call it the solace and solitude factor. And you may be investigating over the next 6 months how that being alone can be one of the most pleasurable experiences in your life. What you do alone, home, by yourself. If you make money in international revenue sources, you work for an international company, you do barter and trade internationally, you have a digital borderless income and revenue, borderless income and revenue from digital sources, for example, then this is going to amplify your success in that area 2 weeks and 6 months from this lunation. But the big picture story is, what does it mean that the moon is at the bending of the nodes of fate from the eclipse of April the 8th? What it means is that this eclipse cycle that continually has been pushing you through last July to January 25 to make some changes that expand you here into your 9th house and release you from the 3rd house matters. Some of you removing yourself, releasing yourself from local neighbors, neighborhood siblings and cousins and nephews and nieces factors, or releasing yourself from your social media habits and addictions, or releasing yourself from skills-based learnings that have bogged you down, courses you don't really need or want, but you're expanding and moving into a energetic shift of focus, even striving, sometimes too much even, towards matters to do with the 9th house. That can be that you're looking at, first of all, you have a Chironic wound here, and the 9th house is about your faith, your wisdom, and your spiritual path. Also, maybe a father figure, and you have a Chironic wound in this part of your sky, been active since 2019. The eclipse of April the 8th is trying to eliminate that wound once and for all because it was conjunct that wound. And you want to note that you may want to go back to school. This could propel a lot of Leo, sun, moon, and rising, especially the rising sign folk, to want, and for sun, your career, to want to have a connection to some higher education, some new form of learning, more formal, like colleges, campuses, etc. Or you may bring in a guide, mentor, teacher, coach, guide, even therapist that supports you in the next 6 months from this new moon, new beginning, new refresh. And that support structure allows for you here to also expand your contentment in your own self when you're all alone. You know, you are in a flow state to the actual nodes of fate. And so that you're inviting in the changes. You're like, bring it on. You know, I'm ready for that. Some of you may expand into opportunities connected to foreign shores, foreign lands, including moving because of it. As a Leo, this is possible with this setup in your chart. The new moon is in a flowing trine relationship to Saturn in the house of inheritances, chunky money, things to do with shared resources with a partner. With Pluto here too, there's a lot of indications of partner monies being available to you in a positive way. That's your marriage type partner. A financial glow up could happen. And possibly with Saturn in your 8th house as a Leo, there's a lot of desire to put new structures in place for taxes and matters to do with your earning structures, like when it comes to like investments and longer term financial resources for retirement. And Venus is a goddess of money, and she flows to Saturn. You're stabilizing your money. But the 12th house could also bring stabilization of the monies through things to do with your what you do in the quietude of your own home, quietly behind the scenes, right? There's a water trine energy forming here, right? There is nothing here, but there is this energy flowing to this part of your chart. You know, the sexy sextile that's forming to Mars in your 10th house is going to be a part of the July conjunction of Mars and Uranus. Some radical, exhilarating, exciting changes in your career space that Venus approves of. And she brings money from them. So any of those of you who are listening who are digital revenue people like me, this is good. This is going to bring an exciting, exhilarating shift in the career space that also up levels you in the 6 months that follows this moon in the amount of cash flow, revenue, and financial goodness that you generate from your 12th house, allowing you to increase your financial wellness. Final point. Addictions. If you're a Leo with a bad habit or an addiction that is self-sabotaging and helps you fall away from your highest good, then this is a new moon, new beginning refresh button that allows you to release it. And if you're going to release it, you might do it through guides, mentors, coaches, teachers, or programs of education that get you aware of why you're doing those things you shouldn't be doing for your overall health and wellness. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. It looks like you're having a refresh button of a beautiful Cancer moon in your 11th house, connected to Sirius, the dog star for charm, luck, and financial wellness as well. It is a financial house. So let's say it that way. It's the money you make from your career space. This is wonderful because it could indicate a new beginning coming up for you. July 5th, add 2 weeks, but also over the next 6 months in a career space to do with your earnings. So a raise, a promotion, a new job. And I love that Jupiter's up here giving you luck in that area, but also an increase of joy and new beginnings in social groups and friendship circles as well. Because this is a new beginning, new moon in the 11th house, it is at the bending of the nodes of fate. There is a call to let go of, from that April 8th eclipse, matters to do with the earnings, savings, hustle. It's like, you know, your second house is the revenue, earnings, making money, saving money. I possess my savings account. I possess my furniture. I possess my car. You might have to let go of some of that intensity around possessions, bring some softening, letting go, some spiritual wisdom to that part of the chart that often is like survival mode, right? I need food, shelter, and water. Bring it on. Second house, because second house feeds the first. It's a spoon that feeds you, right? And so Virgos, there's a letting go of that. You know, I have a Virgo rising friend who just sort of half-assed retired out of her career, letting go of that energy of making the money, striving, getting the safety net in place for survival. But at the same time, that eclipse that happened in April on the 8th, total solar eclipse, is opened up a portal of opportunity for money that is not money that you have made in your career per se. This is like a chunky money story that can be a windfall of money, that could be money from an inheritance, that could be money from a tax rebate that's quite significant, that could be money from anything to do with unearned income or money from shared with another person. Like you do share your, bank loans and mortgages with the bank, right? They have shared resources with you. It's a loan. You share money with your significant other as well. So monies in those areas of your life are going to be very much a part of this new moon, because this new moon squares the nodes of fate from that eclipse cycle that began in April and ends in March. And so there's turning points in your finances regarding unearned income, chunky money, shared resources with others, and other people's money. A few people here may benefit if you're in like royalty income zone or commission chunky checks or something like that. But for the most part, it is an inheritance house, and I will draw your attention to that possibility for some of you of receiving family of origin monies over the course of the next year until end of next March, especially with Jupiter, the Lord of your fourth house, angular to the fourth and flowing to the inheritance part of the sky. Now, the other thing is the trine to Saturn indicates a stabilization in a significant long-term love relationship, because this has been under duress. Starting last March, Saturn entered your long-term committed love story house and made things difficult. Karmic relationships came and went. Your significant long-term marriage partner is melancholic, sad, angry, controlling, or burdened, or you feel that way about them and they feel heavy to you. Yeah, or the relationship feels challenging. And now we see a lightening up because of the flow between your Saturn marriage type partnership house. And also, of course, Saturn rules your romance house, and Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, and friendship. Love is hard, but love flows and endures. And this is kind of the story. And it can be a turning point in that relationship because of finances, like maybe you're making more money and they're happier with that, or because of new social networks and groups that you join as a couple. Like with this energy, I'd say, why not, go join a club together that you both enjoy, whether it's a workout club or it's a book club or it's a curtain chanting club. There's almost a sense of, by finding a new social direction with you and the other that you both align with, there's also a deeper, loyal, loving, committed, flowing, juicy energy between you and your partner. And this will pertain to the next 2 weeks after the new moon, but also the 6 months ahead. And the sexy sextile between Mars and Venus with Uranus, and we'll be doing a video on the Mars-Uranus conjunction. You could have some sudden, shocking, and exciting opportunities to travel with your romantic love partner to far-off foreign shores and lands. And for some of you, moving to a far-off foreign shore and land, maybe because of professional reasons for your partner or you. The other energy of Mars up here in a sexy sextile to Venus is you may have some opportunities educationally that surprise you and bring you great joy. And that can even include the opportunity for you to make a change in your educational directions if you're a student or want to be a student, that brings you greater fun, play, pleasure, and joy. Mars up here with Uranus can be sudden, unexpected wins or shocks regarding legal and court matters, as well as visas, passports, and international travel matters regarding you, your partner, and your friendship circles. I'm using houses 11, 9, and 7. I think and I do like the fact that Mars is flowing to Juno. You're kind of, should I stay or go, marry or divorce, keep on, or should I stay or should I go in love stories, is getting some support from Venus to solidify that love story, right? So you are less out of your element regarding whether this relationship is going to work. If you're single, of course, none of this is going to make any sense what I just said. So keep this in mind. Some of you could indeed meet somebody new from this through a religious setting, spiritual setting, foreign land travel setting, or things to do with social events with friends. And a single Virgo could also be looking at this new beginning as a relationship that's likely to stick, right? A karmic relationship that's likely to stick. And finally, Saturn in your 7th house could mean a 7-year, 6, 7, 8-year age difference, younger or older than you. Okay, we move on. Everyone knows that Libra, I usually take a chocolate break. I'm not going to take a chocolate break. I'm going to take just a break. I forgot to introduce any time in this video, anything I'm doing. You can get my 2023 All Signs videos for only $33. They're regularly $77. July is my summer sale. You can buy your a la carte video for your sign. It used to be $25. The summer sale price is only $14.99. And that's a whole year's predictions. We're 6 months out of into a whole year. You still get 6 months worth of new content, and it's always good to look in the rear view mirror. So grab that if you don't mind in the description box below, and grab the summer sale because the summer sale is here. All right, so I'm going to take a break, have a sip of kombucha, and be back to finish the second half of this video. Okay, let's get back into the game, guys. We're talking Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. And at the beginning of the video, I did explain that a bunch of subscribers who were subscribed, who are not bots, the real people, told me they got unsubscribed. And I've never had a negative subscriber day like ever since my channel started. And last month, one day it was -6. So positively check, please. I mean, go look. Are you still subscribed? Because YouTube told me when I got in touch with the customer service that they were just scrubbing the bots, but literally they dumped thousands of subscribers during the month of June. So go check to see if you're still in the game. All right, let's get started on your sign. Okay, guys, let's get back in. I just almost decharged my laptop and that would have sucked. Okay, remind me later. Okay, back into the story. All right, so moving on to the next piece of our reality, Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. What happens here? You're ending up with this amazing moon that's angular to you with blessed Venus and the Sun and the Moon together in your 10th house of career, reputation, visible actions in the world, the way the world sees you and the way you want to be seen. It's kind of like, this is my success story at high noon at the the OK Corral. So this part of your chart is lit up. And it is saying blessed, surprisingly positive, yay you moments in your career and reputation space. By the way, especially financially with this love up from Mars. So longer term stories in the next 6 months to do with, your ability to generate some seriously financial good things coming through your career and reputation is wonderful. That said, this new moon, new beginning with fixed star Sirius for blessings, fame. You're going to get fame at high noon at the OK Corral. So fame, recognition, money, prosperity, riches, good Syrian stories, also spiritual energy. This is playing out at the top of your sky for a new beginning and a new refresh. And you get one up here every year, but not this way, not this blessed, not this super cool stuff. And what I like about this, of course, is that you're looking for true enjoyment as well. Well, you can be a celebrity when Venus is up here. You're also looking for what you want to do. What do you desire that is enjoyable and happy and fun and pleasurable as well. But on the other hand, on a very practical, everyday, mundane note, lucky career, prosperity stories are unfolding for you over the course of the next 2 weeks after this new beginning moon and also after the next 6 months. And the thing about this moon, as I said in the intro, it's embedded within, like a nested Russian doll, an eclipse story. Because of the Aries Ingress chart, this particular moon is happening square the nose of fate. And that's where the eclipse energy was on April the 8th. The Aries Ingress was March the 20th, and then April 8th was this eclipse. And this whole energy is being deeply activated. And what is that energy? It is self and other. I, thou. You are letting go of old identities, old ways of seeing yourself. It's your sun in Libra, old career paths and purpose paths. If it's your moon, old ways of always around body autonomy, body health, body stories perhaps, but also moon, changing, letting go around home matters and childhood stories, for example. In the same time, and don't forget, the moon is your mom and the sun is your dad. So letting go south node of those characters in your story or your relationship to them. But the north node is saying expanding into the marriage house. You've been a chironically wounded being, Libra, sun, moon, and rising, especially sun and moon, especially moon and rising especially, but sun as well. Chironically wounded in your relationship zone, right? Committed long story, love stories. I know a Libra had a couple horrible things happen during the last 2019 Chiron ingress into the 7th house. It would wound anybody in a relationship, right? Betrayals and all the such. But on the other hand, it's also a test. Chiron is like being on purpose in your relationships, healing the wound and moving into it in a new way. And this eclipse of April the 8th is trying to completely undo that wound so you can move forward. And if you're single, it could bring you somebody between April the 8th and next year, March 29th. But if you're with someone, it's going to heal the wound in that relationship. And sometimes the wound healing is because you need to leave it. And sometimes it's because you need to repair the relationship. Either is okay. And I want to remind you, with the North Node in the 7th house, there's a lot of your focus is going towards others. You're expanding into your audience, clients, and marketplace, business partnerships, and also long-term relationships. Now, again, endings or repair, either one is fine since that April 8th eclipse. I know a Libra who ended a business partnership arrangement during the aftermath of the eclipse. That eclipse is still rolling through the influence of your life, in a way, through to the next April eclipse in Aries, which is next year, March 29th. And it was total and powerful. And this moon says, hey guys, look, Libras, not only are we rearranging our self and other axis, but we're also rearranging our career space. And in that case, we bring ourselves back to 10 houses from, 1, 2, 3, we're all the way at 10 houses from the 10th house represents from your success, ambition, and career space. The 7th house represents the audience, marketplace, and client space. And so that is going to change between this new beginning, fresh start, new moon, and 6 months afterwards. And of course, 2 weeks. So in the first 2 weeks after any new moon, look for what's going on regarding business partners, marriage partners, and clients, audience, marketplace changes. With the trine to Saturn, this is indicating a new direction of positivity around perseverance and discipline, focus, and keeping on in the workspace, right? In the colleague coworker space relative to the career space. Some of you may, Saturn, trine, Venus, commit to a deeper level of engagement within a work career story with other people in the colleague coworker space. You may be given a promotion to new levels of authority, and that would look very much like Saturn trine Venus in houses 6 and 10. Matters that connect you with your health and improving your health in steadfast ways that also amplifies your career success can also occur here over the next 6 months from this new moon. Every new moon asks us to nurture ourselves. Venus asks us to do what we enjoy. By enjoying what you do, you're nurturing yourself. And maybe Saturn, who is about you're grinding away since 2023 March, is taking the gas pedal off a bit regarding the hard work you're doing and allowing for some more pleasure and enjoyment in your work. The sextile, again, to Mars can bring some financial things like chunky money, like sign-on bonuses. If you leave a job, severance packages, sharing in the stocks of a company you work for, better benefits of some sort in like health insurance benefits in the company you're working with or will be working for if it changes. For the most part, like if you're unemployed as a Libra, this can bring you a great new job opportunity that lasts a long time coming up in the next 6 months. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. Nothing to complain about here. What you've got going is a fresh new start in your 9th house, and you like it because it flows to you, right? It's water trining you. And so you're going to say, wow, what a great, blessed, Sirius dog star, fame, fortune, riches, in a lucky Lakshmi house for good prosperity anyway. Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and prosperity and creativity. And then you've got Venus up here, and she's like, okay, let's bring it. How about some really great luck up here? Now, because the 9th house has so many meanings, let's go through that. Because it's a new beginning in the house of foreign shores and lands, travel, court matters and legal judge-like cases, higher education, book publishing and podcasting publishing, and then you publish out there like books for sure, because it's like the law books, and it's also the wisdom books, like the good book of the Bible, but it's also publications. But I've seen like serialized podcasts look like 9th house stories in my client database, where shorter transient things like a one-off webinar or something can be the 3rd house. And so I feel like you're looking at that kind of place of success for you over the course of the next 6 months, because this is a powerful new beginning, but it's also embedded in the eclipse structure. And the eclipses, because of those eclipses, the April 8th eclipse and this lunation being at the bending of the nodes of fate, not only from the Aries ingress chart, but from the April 8th eclipse, the fated turning point, pivotal decisions about looking at what brings you enjoyment and pleasure and real joy and what you really desire is going to activate the work house and the self-undoing house. The axis here can be very health oriented. Like, what is it that you do in your life that needs to have a critical turning point from a very deeply spiritual house, the house of God, the house of wisdom, truth, and knowledge? And this can catalyze you. Like, this can be looking like a new beginning in health matters and self-undoing matters through somebody who's a guide, coach, or mentor, because guide, coach, mentors, hand of the king is in the 9th house, or educational path. Now, with the North Node expanding your 6th house, some of you are looking at expansions in your work, but the chironic wound needs to be healed. You could have more work success, but hate the work. You want to know that you can actually find enjoyment and meaning. Venus in the 9th house, square the nodes in your 6th house. And Chiron has wounded you there since 2019. You may have had work, but it may not be the work that feels true for you. And so now you want to look at that as a very healing new moon to help the idea of work and service become more meaningful and enjoyable. With the South Node in the 11th, 12th house, a lot of you are letting go of like the nicotine, the vape, the weed, the wine. You're going to go through a period of detox or let go from a very, very meaningful 9th house manner. Some of you could join a spiritual community where they want you to let go of substances, or you could even just join like AA. AA would be a 9th house story. I mean, just some of you may do that, and many of you don't need that. Honestly, though, what brings you pleasure, Venus, North Node eclipses in the 6th house, is pets. And honestly, some of you are going to want to get a pet because it will feel spiritually satisfying and emotionally generating good emotional current for you. And so there may be a new pet in the lives of petless Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and risings. Like, you're under a lovely energy for Jupiter in your 8th house. It can bring you unexpected legacy, wealth, money, inheritances over the next year. And, that's in the backdrop of all of this. And I just wanted to bring it up because if you're going to get a pet, you need to bring it home, right? And there's a lot going on in home that's transforming your life. A lot of Scorpios are looking at major changes in their home, but you have some financial bounty that allows for that. And this next, year with the eclipses here, this is rentals as well. So changing home through purchase and rentals, renting a home, renting out your home, purchasing a home, selling a home are narratives that are highly indeed working through this new moon as well over the course of the next 6 months. Because that new moon is square the rentals, houses, storylines. All righty. Anything else I'd tell you? It's a very spiritual axis, right? 6, 12, and 9. Okay, these are metacosmios, between the world's houses. And so if you want to take this off the mundane level of everyday world stuff, this is a spiritual uplift. Some of you may find spiritual community, spiritual philosophy, spiritual ideology that really opens up a new direction for you and asks you how you wish to apply that to burning off your karma and creating a life of service. And for some of you, that's going to be a big story over the 6 months that follow this beautiful new moon in your 9th house of God. All right, Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. What is going on here? First of all, you're looking at a beginning of something fresh and new. It's a new moon in your 8th house of that chunky money. That's your unearned income, shared resources with other people, other people's money, including banks and stock market stories. And this is a fresh new beginning with the goddess of prosperity in the mix and on this dog star of riches, as well as connecting with the idea that Venus here is in a house of secrets. And because she's a goddess of love and romance, and she's squaring the node of fate in your romance house, some of you could engage in the next 6 months in a secret romantic love affair that's highly destined, or your partner is keeping the love affair secret from someone else. That kind of story. However, Venus is very positively engaged because she's with the dog star. And she is connected in Egyptian myth to the wife of Osiris, who put him back together after he was cut to pieces. So there is a cosmic love story involved in that Venus placement in an 8th house of secret love stories. I'll leave that to you. What could that be about, Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising, that you may have a hidden love story emerge in the 2 weeks or 6 months that follow this eclipse? If you're already in a hidden love story, there's a critical turning point on the bending of the nodes of fate from the Aries ingress and the April 8th eclipse. Decisions must be made, action must be taken to make a shift. With the cosmic lover Mars engaging that Venus, could this be a love affair that's deeply, deeply karmatic or connected to work environments? It sounds like a soap opera. I sound like I'm talking about Young and Restless. I'm sorry, but that's what I see. I mean, Venus could also allow you to eliminate a debt, a credit card, mortgage, etc., or quit a job during the next 6 months because of Mars sextiling from the 8th house. Ultimately, you've been wounded in your sexual life, in your relationship to your children, in fertility matters. And that's been a challenge since 2019. You've been trying to heal it. The eclipse is offering up a doorway to that healing from April 8th to next March, and you're in the thick of it because this moon activates that eclipse. So now, finally, where have you not come to terms with 8th house matters? Betrayals in love and romance, infidelities, things to do with tantric elements of sexuality, things to do with your hidden motives and shadow side of your sexual story. Have you really looked at it? Venus is this is a psychological house, the 8th house. So if you ever met a psychologist, they have like a therapist, they have a lot of 8th house placements. So there can be a deeper dive into what has held you back or wounded you in romantic, sexual, long-term love. Because with Jupiter moving through your 7th house, if you're not with somebody, you will be by the end of this year, by next March. No, next June. And if you're with somebody and the relationship isn't right for you, Jupiter can end it. So both things are going on. He can also increase the goodness in the existing relationship if it's possible. So there's a backdrop for this sort of hidden love, romance, shadow side of sexuality narrative that wants to be remedied over the 2 weeks and 6 months from this new moon. And it's trying to Saturn, and by the way, Venus can say, what do you truly desire? And the 8th house could be, I want to be tied up. Like you get a lot of those shadow and hidden desires that need to be addressed in your love and romantic life. The trine to Saturn can indicate opportunities regarding mortgages and things to do with financial goodness regarding land, property, and real estate, and investments in land, property, and real estate over the course of the next 6 months. And Saturn has said, well, maybe your home life feels isolated, lonely, and hard since last March, or there's an elder living with you, either one. And Venus trine is like, let's fix that problem. Let's flow some love to it. Intimacy and deep sexual intimacy can be connected to the 8th house, and you have that romantic wound. And Saturn says, well, let's engage some kind of perseverant energy, some kind of disciplined, focused energy. Honestly, with Saturn trine Venus in houses 4 and 8, it'd be like, let's have a kink date once a week, or let's talk about our sexual romantic stories if you were in a relationship, and be really serious and realistic and sober-minded about it so that we can prevail, because love can endure. And finally, if you have an elder, like a grandparent or great-grandparent or great aunt or somebody like that, uncle, there's a chance that you're looking at an inheritance from that kind of person over the next 6 months with this Venus energy on the star of riches and the 8th house flowing to the elder Saturn in your 4th. Shall we continue? Oh, and let go, let God over here. South Node in your 11th house. Some of those groups of belonging, friendship circles, some of those ways you gain money from your career are no longer appropriate for you. And the eclipse cycle is asking you to release that. And Venus is saying, no worries, because we got money coming from somewhere else. So consider that career gain strategies are no longer relevant. Consider that you have to let go of certain dreams and goals, as well as friends that you've had before, that these people are no longer bringing you enjoyment. And it's time to let them go. All right, Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. First things first. One of the things that I note here in your sky is that you are looking at, again, an angular relationship to the new moon. This means it is across away from you. This happens for the Libras and the Aries, and now it happens for you. And in essence, it's going to have a pivotal impact on you because not only is it angular, but it's connected to the angular eclipses moving through houses 10 and 4. Life-changing energies are on the go here. First of all, it's on the dog star Sirius, which is riches and goodness and fame. It's connected to Venus, which is luck and beauty and kindness and friendship and prosperity. And it's in the house of your significant other. Now, it can be that this is a story that isn't about you, that it is relative to them and not to you. And that in any way that this plays out, it could be you watching from the other side where you can witness 180 degrees your business partner, your romantic partner, or somebody significant in your life having a beautiful glow up. July the 5th, add 2 weeks, and even add 6 months. Because there are eclipses involved from the Aries ingress of March the 20th, followed by the April 8th eclipse, that places this new moon at the bending of the nodes of fate from that eclipse story in April. There's a pivotal turning point regarding what the universe is trying to open up for you in regards to an expansion or change of home and a release and surrender of a reputation and career path. And with the North Node representing Rahu, representing foreigners or that which feels foreign to you. Some of you may move into new career territory that's foreign to you. But also you may move to a new home that's connected to foreign people or foreign shores from that of your birthplace. You've been in a chironic wound for many Capricorns since 2019, where you feel like you don't belong, you can't find your true home, you feel homeless, you feel wounded in the home. That's Chiron in the 4th house. And your childhood wounds and your mother relationship wounds have been amplified since 2019 for healing. And now you can note that this energetic shift is here from the April 8th eclipse to heal that for once and for all, that wound of home and homecoming and mother and home life and childhood. And the eclipse wants to help. And this new moon wants to help that because of the blessed star Sirius and the lunation being connected to Venus. Women, love partners, and powerful positive friendships can help turn a corner for you in regards to where you're going to live and where your true home will lie. I could also note that if you are single, this could bring in a new relationship. And hang on, just give me a sec. Sorry, Capricorns. Let's get back to you. I had an incoming call that I could not refuse. It was too important. So one of the things I would say is that because this is energy from Venus, a lesser benefic in your 7th house, it could also be opportunities that come through business partnerships or significant people in your life. So look at it as it's coming from the I, thou axis. It's the others that are giving you this blessing. It's not generated from within yourself. But singletons can meet somebody new that's karmic and important to you in your life. And if you're with somebody, again, this can be their lucky story, but it benefits that sense of being wounded or not finding your true home. It benefits that healing of that chironic wound for you between the actual new moon, by the way, but also understanding it's embedded within the eclipse structure till next March. But this is like, okay, July 5th, add 6 months. Let's see what happens regarding my home stories and look to the 2 weeks that follow for acute information about that. Now, with the flow from Saturn, that's your neighborhood, travel opportunities, skills-based learning, social media, land, stories, siblings. So those stories are looking good. Uplift with a sibling narrative, some kind of new conversations regarding neighbors, neighborhoods, writing projects, skills-based learnings, amplified. But again, because Venus sitting in the 7th may be about someone else, is their stories as well that may be engaging you. One of the things about the Saturn thing in your 3rd house is that you might find that the local environment in which you live, the fishbowl in which you swim, Adam Allen bus, isn't right for you. You're like feeling alone, lonely, tired, heavy, burdened, or anxious regarding your local environment. And it's just not feeling great since last year. And this is like a real healing moment that comes off of this new moon to shift that for you. All right. Finally, singletons can meet a new love story person, perhaps through travel or educational venues, 3rd house matters, or online dating apps. So if you are a Capricorn who's single, use this new moon, especially the 2 weeks that follow, to launch yourself into dating environments. Take that trip if you think you might meet someone on it, and or engage in that class that you think you want to take. You might meet a new love in that environment. That sexy sextile from Mars indicates a juicy increase in the next 2 weeks and 6 months after the July 5th eclipse in your sex life with a significant other as the passion heats up. Whether you have somebody now or you're getting somebody soon. All right, Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising. Yes, I am one of you. I'm Aquarius rising. I'll try not to use too many examples of myself so I don't irritate people, but I will use my examples if I think they're illustrative of what might happen here. So what we see is a new beginning in a very interesting home of the sky. Your sixth house is your health matters. It can activate the axis of addictions. It can be connected to your work, your daily work environment, your colleagues, coworker space, the office space, that kind of thing. It can involve pets, and it can involve rental opportunities, whether you're the landlord or the tenant. Now, this is such a powerful new beginning. So it's really auspicious with Venus, the goddess of pleasure in the house of sickness, to ask yourself what you truly want or desire or enjoy. That can also fortify and strengthen your health. And basically, Venus here, just traveling here every year, brings us positive health outcomes. But this is bigger than that. This is baked in, right, to the next 2 weeks and 6 months. 6 months is the full moon in Capricorn, that you're going to see increasingly positive things happening regarding health matters. Now, it has a bigger picture. And by the way, looking at this for you guys, pets. Some of you may get a beautiful new animal in the next 6 months with that flirty sextile from Mars and Uranus. It may be unexpected. A cat or a dog shows up on your doorstep. A friend down the hall needs to move and they can't take the animal with them. You may have unexpected arrivals of a pet in the next 6 months. At the same time, unexpected changes in your rental home situations or lease situations as well. But they're positive because Venus is benefic and she's on a positive star and she's on a new beginning, a new moon. So we like it, unexpected new rental opportunity. But because Mars is also trining Juno and forming a T-square, a mini grand trine, unexpected opportunities to purchase property or to eliminate financial debt or to get the dream mortgage, etc. Jupiter's moving to your fifth house, Aquarius, and that can bring you windfalls and financial money from gaming and earnings. Moving away from that narrative, let's talk about the eclipses. It was March the 20th, we had an Aries ingress, where the nodes of fate turned out to be at 15 degrees, and this is an eclipse at 14 Cancer at the bending or square, the nodes of fate, not only from the Aries ingress chart, but also from the eclipse of April the 8th. What does this mean? It means that eclipse, which is trying to make a massive change in your life between April of this year and March of next year, is being reactivated by the new moon. And what are the eclipses doing? North node, expanding your third house. For Aquarians, increase or change in your home's, your neighbor's neighborhood situation. Changes in writing, increases and writing projects. You've been wounded regarding neighbors, neighborhoods, childhood friends, writing projects, social media world, marketing, selling sometimes, third house matters since 2019. Now, I had 2 childhood friends die since 2019. I'm wounded there. What are you wounded in? I haven't written anything worthwhile on my blog. The Awakened Dreamer since 2019. Aquarians, in the comments, what are you wounded in? Have you had a sibling relationship wound as well? This is this third house story. Have you had travel wounds? I couldn't travel. I didn't take an unnecessary unsafe precaution during the pandemic, and I was restricted in my country from travel. So these are the ideas of examples, right? What did you have? Because you've been wounded here since 2019. The eclipse of April the 8th is trying to change that. And it's not just trying to change it by itself. It's harnessing this new moon in the 6th house. For example, new directions in work, job, tenancies, rentals, pets, and debts that are blessed in health matters as well. In the 2 weeks and 6 months that follow this eclipse, that also help remedy the challenges of the neighbors, neighborhoods, siblings, writing projects, and teaching and skills-based learning. Okay, those are all the areas where the square to this eclipse is happening. I would say that you're letting go, surrendering, releasing old, outdated spiritual philosophies and ways of seeing the world that don't work, as the South Node in the ninth house of God can also illuminate a spiritual awakening. Thank you, Pluto, in your life. And so a lot of you are also deepening your spiritual awareness. And that's been ongoing, but now this eclipse is going to reactivate that and bring in even deeper spiritual awakening, spiritual awareness, spiritual understanding, and spiritual philosophy. Technically, I would say as well that the trine to Saturn and Venus is about a stabilization of your earnings, savings, income, and finances. Some of it can be because Venus here is like in a karmic house. This can be an unexpectedly beautiful opportunity because that's Uranus, Mars, to eliminate debt, to pay down, pay off, eliminate any kind of debt, karmic and real. But Saturn, he's in a money, savings, earnings, possessions house, flowing to Venus in the house of your work, in the house of your, workspace environment. And therefore your work is stabilizing and your money is stabilizing, but there's something new about it. New moon, new beginning. Venus on the dog star of riches. And there is a vibe when I see Venus in the sixth house of, the work has got to be enjoyable. You want to love the work you do. It's an act of service here to get the rewards of your 11th house. And so there's a real movement towards sustainable long-range financial success, but engaging work that you love. And that's true for the next 6 months after the new moon. The new moon can certainly give you a change of home and a change of neighborhood. Just keep that in mind. Even to the point where your change of neighborhood may involve foreign shores and foreign people and foreign lands. Do you guys hear that? Can you hear the train? I'm in Northern Ontario where I grew up, and there's a train going by as I talk about a move. But I also get trains as Dharma, the Dharma track, being on your Dharma track. Sorry, I can't stop the train, but we'll just enjoy the sound of it. Okay, lastly and bestly, Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So the new moon, new beginning, right, is connected to your 5th house of children and romance, and possibly could bring you new romantic love, fertility, pregnancy, and children. Beautiful riches, of course, and also profoundly spiritual love on the dog star. Single Pisces could meet the love of their life under this influence, and it would be enduring and lasting, but you're also being realistic and sober-minded, trine Saturn, about the kind of love you want to receive, the kind of love and sexual romance that you want to have, which in this case is nurturant and cozy and friendly. Now, and emotionally flowing. Now, this new moon is also good for opportunities for entrepreneurs and artists and creatives as well to generate a new beginning in a creative artistic project or entrepreneurial endeavor. Your children can do well, and this can indicate fertility with one of your children, that therefore you could now be hearing you will become a grandparent. If this is something possible for you, it'd be in the next 6 months. The new moon here can open up a doorway of enthusiasm, pleasure, joy, and enjoyment in your life as a general principle, having more fun, really enjoying your life, and hearing the inspiration of the muse. What inspires you? What enthuses you? What fills you with spirit, inspirited? But Venus wants you to have fun. She wants to have authentic wonder and childlike enjoyment, the innocence of the fun of a child. And that's going to come to you, a lot of you Pisces, despite the heaviness of Saturn in the sign of you, because you'll find enduring, stable, and lasting ways to enjoy life itself. You can win money in the 5th house, and so you could have some financial luck here, and that could stabilize your enjoyment of life because you have a lot of financial resources. You're also looking at this as a new moon that square the nodes of fate from the Aries eclipse and the Aries ingress in March and April. And this is an eclipse cycle that says it's time to increase your focus on your resources financially, whether those are possessions, savings, earnings, increase the money that you have available for your thrival and survival. You've been wounded in your finances, Pisces, ever since, 2019, as Chiron gave you wounds around possessions, earnings, and even voice, vocation, and calling. It's just been a hassle. Now, technically this is shifting on this eclipse of last April 8th, and it will continue until the end of March next year. And this new moon is embedded within that structure, and it's going to activate some kind of energy from the house of good fortune and even money luck through winning. So keep that in mind. There's a turning point here. You can't do it. It does you, you know? Well, I wouldn't hurt to buy a lottery ticket now and then. With Venus in this storyline, and the need to increase your focus on your resources, savings, earnings, and financial well-being, you might want to ask yourself what kind of intuitive, creative, fun energies are needed for that to happen. Do you need to be entrepreneurial but have fun doing it? Do you need to finish that book? Do you need to finish that series of paintings the gallery owner is waiting for? What is it you need to do with Venus's help to bring that success about financially? You can't rely as much on the money of your partner or on the, savings account or the stock investments with that South Node. You're having to go more into hustle mode. With the flow to Saturn, however, you hold Saturn in your being. This means stabilization as well regarding all matters to do with your reality, but also enjoyment of reality. Sexy sextile from Mars to Venus generally says, some of the success in your life that can be like good fortune financially may come through a sibling. All right. Especially given that Saturn rules elder siblings and the house of siblings in general is activated. A sudden surprising financial liftoff in your life connected to the word sibling or siblings is possible. Some of you may also be looking at some kind of travel opportunities that are going to bring great enjoyment and fun and play and pleasure. Some of that may even be romantic because of the Mars sextile Juno in the house of committed love. And so travel opportunities with committed love partners is true in the next 6 weeks and 2 months. 2 weeks and 6 months ahead from the new moon. With Jupiter in your fourth house, all things are blessed regarding homeland, property, real estate, and money from your family of origin. So keep that in mind. And also just having a more expansive, more wise, bounteous, and good energy in your home through to next June. And lastly, your own children belong to the fifth house, and they're getting a glow up. Something good is happening for your children July 5th at 6 months. And so therefore, just know that this isn't always just for you. They could have fresh new beginnings, including the birth or the pregnancy storylines in their own lives. Jupiter is children, and he's expanding your fourth house. So more children coming for your home, in the home, or connected to your ancestral and familial stories can be for many, many Pisces who have adult children, especially hopefully adult children, the time of seeing the beginning of grandchildren. And if that's true, likely shocking and surprising because you didn't think you were going to get that. That's because Mars rules your house of grandchildren, ninth house, and he's about to conjunct Uranus. And you find out, shockaroo, that you're going to be a grandparent. When? In the 2 weeks that follow the new moon or the 6 months that follow the new moon. Thank you for listening, all of you, Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising, and everyone else. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This video is going to go out on July 4th. Probably it'll sync on July 4th because no one's paying attention to YouTube. But I'm going to go for it anyway because that's a day before the new moon. This is an update on a video. Go check below to find out about it. Check out my Patreon community. They get early access, ad-free content. Today it's a day early, but mostly you get that content a week or two ahead sometimes. But it's just that this is an update, little update video. Enjoy your, all my Americans, enjoy your July 4th. Everyone listening, check to see if you've been unsubbed by YouTube. They must have dumped at least 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers last month, and they're not all bots. So you're not a bot. If you're not a fake account, please check to see if you're subscribed. Thanks. Ciao, ciao.